Gentlemen, we are back for another series review. This is straight from Apple TV Plus Constellation. So, the background premise of this is Joe returns to Earth after a disaster in space and discovers that there are missing pieces of her life. So, she sets out to expose the truth about the hidden secrets of space travel and recover what she has lost. So, we've watched the first three episodes of this so far. This is a non spoiler discussion. And after we get through with this, we will eventually go through each episode after that, starting with episode 4 in a spoiler discussion format. So there are no spoilers here, but I have my co-host here, Vanessa. What's going on, Vanessa?
I'm feeling confused, bamboozled, um, befuddled. Uh,
Hoodwinked.
exactly. I'm excited to talk about the show. I'm doing good. How you doing?
I am confused as you, but I'm good. I'm along for the ride.
Right.
But this was interesting because we saw the trailer, and I was like, Vanessa, I think we should watch this. And so we saw it, and it was just as puzzling as we watched these three episodes. I don't feel like I've got the clear understanding what's happening. Um, but I'm loving the ride behind it. So let's go ahead and kind of piece apart some of the things that we took from this show. One of the things I'll say is that Apple has a good budget on this show because it looks freaking amazing. Them being on the ISS, the International Space Station, some of those shots look better than some of the movies that I've seen. I just saw a movie called ISS, and some of the shots and the visuals in this, specifically in the first episode, were just amazing. Like they did a really good job of presenting what appeared to be practical and also some really heavy VFX. And I think that they captured every single actor very well. But more than that, I think that you've kind of felt that immersion every single transition. Now, I do want to ask you, Vanessa, it jarring for you going off the first episode when we started transitioning back and forth between what could be reality, what could be space, what could be somebody losing their mind? What was that for you from a visual standpoint? Because it's a lot. It's a whole lot.
Mm-hmm. It was good. It's disorienting, but like the camera work is amazing. Like the way the setup is, like is already something scary to me anyway. So I knew we were gonna get some really cool visuals, but the way the missing time, the memory lap, like the back and forth between what I don't know what quite is going on, but the back and forth between storylines, I guess, is actually really well done. It is disorienting for the first episode, especially when you don't know the characters at all. So you're like, what is happening? But as we've now gone into episode 3, I'm starting to understand a little bit better what's happening. So it actually it's the way that the nonlinear storytelling is actually working really well. I love the way there's certain transitions of scenes. Like there was something that connected, like a character was doing something and then it just flung them to something doing something else but in a different scenario. It's very jarring, but it works really really well, so I like it.
Yeah, the other thing that you're gonna notice, you guys, is there's a lot of mirrors, and that is very intentional. I can't say why, and I don't really necessarily understand why, but the way that they utilize mirrors and reflections are so important that you can tell it's just
Mm-hmm.
precision. Like I don't know best way to say it because sometimes you'll see a mirror and it's just there. Sometimes you'll see a reflection that's just there, and then sometimes you'll see something different, and it
Mm-hmm.
happens very early on with every single different character in different scenarios. And so it gives you this sci-fi feel while at the same as that time making you perceive it could be completely in somebody's headspace that they are losing it or they're losing track of different pockets of their memories. And
Mm-hmm.
like you said, those transitions between scenes, um, they start this show later. You don't know how later. It just throws you in, but you know very quickly that some time has passed because then they transition back going
Mm-hmm.
on the space station. And so you're gonna be very confused with how it opens, but by the time the end of the episodes, you're gonna also have way more questions. And I think the last show
Mm-hmm.
that did that pretty well was like Arrow on the CW. They plotted that thread pretty well and they planned it out really well. The only thing that's weird about this is the fact that we're also dealing with a space time situation that we can't really understand. Like, there's
Mhm.
parts of this story that we really couldn't even try to tell you because we haven't finished the story. So even if
Right.
we tried to spoil it for you guys, we really can't because we're just making assumptions on what we think is happening.
Mhm.
But I guess let's
But
go ahead.
one more point to you mentioned reflections. That's something that definitely pay attention to. There are things going on in certain scenes. There are things going on, not just people's dialogue. Pay attention to mirrors and windows and doors and reflections, because there are things that you will catch and be like, wait, did you see that? And we're like, wait, what? Like, there's some things, just like, definitely pay attention to what's going on in the background. There's like especially in the first episode. Yeah.
Yeah, there were moments in the first episode that kind of also had like little levels of horror in it. Um,
Hmm. Oh
like, I mean,
yeah.
it's like, again, like, it's very claustrophobic situational.
I
One,
hate
just
it.
being alone on a space station, but in
Hmm.
two, when you don't know if your mind is playing tricks with you or if actually something is happening, and us as the
Hmm.
audience have no idea, but they film it so well that you start fussing at the main character, like, no, don't do it, no, don't do it. And that's classic horror, which I
Yeah.
appreciate their approach to that in this one. But I did want to go and give some props to the cast because it is actually a really good cast in this one. um do you have a specific character you want to kind of dissect, or we want to go straight to our main lead, Joe, and the amazing Nomi? Who do you want to kind of break down in this one?
Yeah, let's start with the lead. I think that's a good one. Like, we can talk about all the astronauts for sure. I think that's a good start because I think they're interesting. The lead is Numi Rapace is amazing. I think I
Yeah.
said her name right.
Yeah, the thing about Nomi in this one, Joe is a very skilled, confident individual, but as the show progresses, she's kind of broken down. She's broken down because of the circumstances happened on the shuttle. There's a lot of questions that she has, and she's also questioning not just her validity as an astronaut, but her sanity. And I think Naomi, one of the things that she's really good at is those emotive moments. And every single time, like, she just nails it every single time.
Hmm.
Even when I'm frustrated with her, I have empathy for her situation because I go back and like put myself in the situation. Like, that would be maddening to not know whether or not you're losing your mind or not, and you feel like you're completely somewhere else. But I think that the way that they have her character, you also kind of feel like you're getting two different storylines, and I think that's a lot. That's a lot from an acting standpoint. You're not just playing a linear character; you're playing one that's going in and out based on exposition and also based on the way that they're putting the character in. So I'll let you kind of go off of that.
Yeah, I think when we meet Joe, she's like, yeah, she just seems really in charge. She's the commander. She's there to. She said in one of the episodes, that's her. She says that her purpose is to study the neurological effects of space travel on humans, like, which is really interesting and
Mhm.
very ironic considering what we are seeing happening with her as all the stuff that happens to her. But I think Nui does her the role so well, especially like you said, it feels like two different storylines are going on. She is a woman who is fundamentally confused about what is going on because she in her head knows facts. She sees she saw what she saw, she knows what she knows. However, people are telling her, no, that's not true, or no, that's not right, or no, this is actually what happened, or no, this always been like this. And she's sitting, and you can slowly see Numi, like Joe's face, like her body, her everything, and you can tell over the course of the three episodes, it's a few weeks because you can see and it's being told through the astronauts' bodies that they have to recover from space travel. It's so interesting to see her get steadily more confused and more resolute as she's trying to figure out what the hell is going on, and we're trying to figure out what the hell is going on. And it's just so good to watch. And like, yeah, every time the camera just rests on her face when she's like thinking about an answer, and it's almost painfully too long, but it's so good because when you're trying to talk to someone and they're like very deliberate about what they say, you're just like, come on, come on.
Right.
So it's like it's really interesting to see her, to watch this kind of character who is very slow and methodical in what she's doing. But then like when we flash forward 5 weeks, there is flash forwards happening and flashbacks. We see a much more frantic and disoriented Joe. So there really is two different Joes we're seeing, and it might be multiple. We don't know. Like there's different perspectives and different scenarios and memories too, because we're seeing a Joe that's like knows what's going on, and then we're seeing a Joe that's confused, and then we're seeing a Joe that's just trying to find she's trying to find something. So
she's doing some questionable things in the snow.
But it all works really well because at the center of it, like we still see the same person, even though she's getting more and more erratic. So it's really cool.
Yeah. And I think that the next character we got to talk about is absolutely Henry. Shout out to Jonathan Banks from Breaking Bad. Mike is not a police officer. He's not a Shylock. He is a scientist / astronaut / entrepreneur. I think Nobel Prize winning person. And when we first see him in the first episode, I was like, oh, he just hates humanity. Like I dislike this man. And it's funny because as each episode goes on, you start to really unpack him. And I find myself feeling so much more empathetic to him. And I can see where certain threads of his humanity has kind of gone left and right because of what he's gone through. And I think Jonathan is killing it. Because initially, if I hated him in the beginning, and then all of a sudden now I'm starting to feel things, it's not just the way he was written, it was the way he's executing the character. And I think that he's doing such a good job. But the science aspect of this and the explanation of what's happening, he is absolutely key to it. And every single time he gives an opportunity of being a jerk or explaining it very nicely, he's giving us gems. Like, it's so fascinating. Did you want to talk towards some of the science aspects of what he's doing?
Yeah, it is jarring because the only long-term role that I've seen Jonathan Banks in is Breaking Bad as Mike, and he is the bruiser, like he's a killer, like that's like that's his range, man. He's like when he's explaining stuff, especially in the scene where he's talking to little Alice, I was like, it was almost like I could literally listen to him and fall asleep, like, and not in a bad way. Like it was very like the way he was talking and explaining things was really, really age appropriate for her, and B was very interesting, and his voice was like really good. They're killing it with him explaining certain things because he's seeing things. Joe ain't the only one. He's seeing things that other people aren't seeing. There are things we find out very quickly because when we first meet him, I'm like, oh, this is American douchebag. Like, of course, the American is being callous about lives. I said this. I was like, he's the only one because everyone's like, no, human lives over experiments. He's like, no, we'll never get back up there again. Political unrest, blah blah blah. Like, and I'm like, of course, but like as we get to know him, or sort of, we're starting to see this person is like very, I mean, traumatized. Like this person came back from his mission with 2 dead bodies.
Right.
And that is traumatizing on its own. So, but then we start to learn some other stuff and we're like, oh man, all played wonderfully well. It's all really good because you're right. I did not like him when we first met him. And now by episode 3, I'm like, because just help him. Like, I feel really bad for all of, like, it just, something's going on and I feel bad. So yeah.
Yeah. I think the important thing to say is this takes place between 2019 and 2021 so far, that what we've seen.
From the dates, yeah.
I'm gonna carefully say this. Make sure you remember history. Okay? Like, our history is still valid. So when you see stuff that's happening in this, make sure it makes sense. That's the best way I can say without saying too much. Because
remember your history. Remember.
Really?
Remember. All right. Reverend.
Don't shoot me. Sorry. Oh man.
Anyway, no, yeah, he's
Anywho,
right though.
talking about the father, we're gonna talk about the actual father in this. This is played by James the RC. He's playing the role of Magnus. Magnus is Joe's partner,
Yes.
and the love of her life, kind of. And he is very confused, and he's trying to be the dutiful partner, and at the same time also trying to be a good dad to Alice, played by Davina Coleman. Alice is a very interesting, cynical little girl. She's very smart, but she also thinks very precisely about everything. Like she's like, okay, this doesn't make sense, so this is gonna happen. This is A, B, C. There's no other outcome with this. And so she questions a lot of things, but she very much so wants to be close to her mom. And it's very interesting to see the way he interacts with her and trying to make sure he's honest with her and trying to be there for her every step of the way. Sometimes I was kind of like, why are you taking this little girl to the station? Like, let her be a little girl, give her a little bit of a buffer, but he wants to not hide her or shield her from the reality that her mom is in. It's a very dangerous job, and she's capable of doing it. What did you think about their relationship, and also how they tie into some of this? Because Alice is also affected by a lot of this more than what you think.
Yeah, I would say that their relationship, I'm not gonna lie, the Magnus is like, he's just kind of there. I don't really have much thought about him. I think a lot of stuff is happening to him, like a lot of plot is happening to him, and he just, that's what he's serving for. Well, maybe we saw a little brief personality burst out of him, but like other than that, like besides being a good dad, I don't really have many thoughts about him. Alice is a much more interesting character because we see a lot of the story is told through her perspective. A lot of the
Yep.
reveals, a lot of the news, a lot of the stuff, expositions to plot movement is through her. A lot of Joe's stress is centered around Alice, is the best way I can put it. And we don't know why, because that's the most confusing part. Because why is Alice even being affected, you know? So I think this is interesting. I think the relationship between Alice and her mom and her family and her friends, even between her bestie Wendy, everything is so interesting. She's very, very calculating. She's smart too, and I think it's I like the actress. I think that she plays her really well. There's two of them. I think there's twins. That's not a secret. They're casted to play this little girl, and which I think we will find out why some point. But yeah, I it's really, really cool, especially with a show with little kids. Like I'm always like, they can be hit or miss, but she's killing it. I think she's doing great.
Yeah, she's playing off of Nomi really well, and a lot of their scenes, especially in the first episode, are between creepy to heartbreaking to I try to put myself in the situation. I don't know what I would do. I think that I would handle it a little differently in certain stages, but I also have to keep assessing. People don't know whether or not they're losing their minds. And you
Right.
know, when stuff is happening to Alice, she's so precise. She's like, that's not possible. So you must be doing this, or
Right.
this must be the problem, or you got a problem. Not like, oh no, there's actually something wrong with reality, possibly.
Right.
So it's like a complete opposite of kind of how Joe is trying to perceive it. Like Joe knows for a fact something is off, but she just can't explain it, and nobody believes her. And yeah, it's a really interesting story. One shout out I want to give, try to pull him up really quick. He initially played in Black Lightning, if you know him. William Catlett. He's a very important character on this series, and I can't explain why, but the scenes that he is in, he executes them very well. Some of them are very creepy, some of them are pretty precise, and then others are very heartbreaking. But he's a very important character. We just can't really explain why. But I just want to give him a shout out. as far as
Mm-hmm.
his role in this.
Yeah, if anyone watching this, those of you from the Black Lightning podcast, we talked about, me and my co-hosts talked about Lala, well, Cat Little a lot. He's an excellent actor, so I was excited to see him in this, and I'm assuming from what we've seen in the 3 episodes that we'll be seeing more of him. I'm very interested in seeing we're seeing all of them, what his actual role is, because it's interesting. Because I can't say why it's interesting because without spoiling it, but and I also don't know what exactly going on, but I will say that, completely unrelated, that multiple times characters have said the word ghost. So I think that's interesting. And I'm just gonna that's all I'm gonna say.
Yeah, we can pick a show. I can tell you that much. Pick some weird off the wall shows. But yeah, again, we're gonna kind of cut it really short, you guys, because the more we try to keep prying, we would just kind of theorize, and I feel like we
Yeah.
can kind of give you guys a theory of what we think is going on, but I feel like it's better you guys just watch it.
And I also suggest watching the first 2 episodes like together, because if you watch the first episode and stop it, it doesn't feel complete. I think it feels more complete watching the second one along with it. And then you can like take a second, breathe, and then watch the 3rd episode. So those first three will release all on the same day and then release weekly afterwards. So I would just suggest watching the first 2,
Yeah,
because you'll be as confused as we are, but you'll have theories.
you will absolutely have theories, and
It
we
has to
will
do
be
with
there to talk about those theories on episode 4. But this does release out February the 21st. We're recording this much earlier. Matter of fact, like a
like a month
month in
early.
time. Like we are literally doing what the show is doing. We're going back and forth in time. But yeah, I don't have anything further. I think it's a really dope show. I I feel like I can't give a full number rating because I feel it's incomplete. I don't really know how to
Yeah.
explain it.
So far, I would say, like, if we're taking the midterms, I would say I'm at like a good, I think I'm at a good A for now. Because for me, because I think the mystery is good, the acting's great. I'm delightfully confused, which is better than being annoyed and confused. Because
Yeah,
if I'm confused and annoyed, that means you're not getting it across. But if I'm
yeah.
delightfully confused, that means I want to keep watching. So I think that's the best way I can sum it up. Right now, I'll give it a night, but I think I'll get a better idea of it by the end of the series, which is 8 episodes, I think, right? Yeah.
Yeah, let me fact check that. I think it is 8 episodes.
Fact check me. Check my
No,
numbers. Check my numbers.
it's 8. It's 8.
Okay.
It's 8. You got 8.
Thank you.
Anyway, I think I could do a B plus to A minus right now. Only because like that first episode, if somebody started this and they only watched the first episode, then I think you need to watch at least the first and second, like she said. And I think if you watch the first 3, you're gonna be like, hey, I need the next episode immediately after that. So yeah. So we will be back for episode 4 and give you guys a more spoiler take, and just like how we've done some of our other series that we've covered, like Echo and True Detective, which is still ongoing right now. So you guys are still watching that. So you can go and check out all of our reviews for that.
I have different
Ava,
hair every episode.
yeah, I can't really do that. I can flip it. I got like a anyway.
You flip it.
So I just jacked it all up. All right, I'm gonna let Vanessa plug. So plug on, Vanessa. Plug
You can
on.
follow me. You can follow me at Vanessa Shark. Stop laughing at me, man. You can follow me at Vanessa Shark on everything: Twitter, Instagram. I have a TikTok. I do not post on TikTok. I'm just stalking people on TikTok, but I have it. I have the website, vanessashark.com. I will be publishing a new, actually, by the time you watch this, all my John Ridley interviews should be up. I have like some interviews with, just go to multiversalcolor.com. Yeah, I'm done. Thank you. What about you, Sam?
I swear.
Really bad at this.
Every time I tell her to plug, it is always different. And I think
I'm gonna record myself and I'm just gonna play it every time.
No, don't do that. It's so entertaining. Like, no, I swear, if it was exactly the same, I think it would be different. It doesn't. No, there's substance to this. As far as me is concerned, I'm gonna be covering Sundance as best I can because I'm gonna be purchasing movies to cover for Sundance. We've got a couple different interviews coming up. We're gonna be covering The Walking Dead again. Can't believe that. So going back to that world is gonna be nuts. We are gonna be covering Mr. and Mrs. Smith, which ironically is actually freaking good. And a slew of other different things that we're gonna be talking about. So that's all we got. We're gonna go.
Bye.
Thank you guys so much for watching. Peace, people. Bye bye.
Falling out the top of I can see the skyline, 50 mile radius on my timeline. Ain't nothing on my mind.